All right, we're live. And you are listening to Transparency and Merit, Stoic Calm. Who are we standing up to?
Cancel culture, Joe. Cancel culture.
Again? With these cancel cultures?
Well,
Tell
you
them
know
to
what,
get out of here.
Joe, I think we got to find a place. I think I would love for transparency and merit to be a place for those who have been unfairly canceled, and a place for redemption to those who have made a mistake, and where they can have maybe an act of contrition, where they can come back. There are a lot of people. Yeah.
In these days, right now, at this very moment in time, we are facing everything cancel.
Yeah.
But cancel culture for sure. I'm planning a road trip, and every single person that I've had plans with along the way on this road trip has canceled. I'm losing my stoic calm.
Well,
everybody is canceling, and then they're canceling culture. What does it mean? What is cancel culture?
Well,
how is this affecting your real life?
Well, it has affected my real life because these protests, it shut my city down for a little bit, and I was unable to get, if I wanted to get something to eat. So it restricted my life a little bit. And cancel culture, because people are afraid to speak out, and so many people are bending the knee. To this organization. Sorry, I'm chewing gum, but
yeah, it's disgusting. Go on.
I'm so sorry, but I love gum. And but yeah, so many people are taking the knee and not standing up to this thing properly, that we allowed these protests to turn into riots and really get out of control. And the reason people didn't stand up to them is because they're afraid of cancel culture. You know, the establishment has given into this kind of cancel culture. And whether, I don't know what the motivation is, you know, Joe, I don't know if it is, I don't know if it's the brainwashed or those who are afraid of the brainwashed. But it's almost like the woke left has the machine of its own, and it's almost like it's almost like an unstoppable. This cancel culture has a life of its own, and it seems insane.
How has cancel culture affected your life?
Well, I said before, the riots, which the police were afraid to enact, politicians were afraid to enact. They were all supporting these protests, which turned into riots. Now, one day I could perhaps understand, but after the first day of riots, the police should have been out in further force, and they should have protected the businesses and the like, and we shouldn't have had a curfew.
Who's behind cancel culture?
You know what? I wish I knew. I don't think it's one person.
So you can't name who's behind cancel culture. It's just something.
I mean, you know what? There's a lot of speculation on who the head is. It's kind of like, some would say George Soros, but I don't think there is
because I don't like it when people call me a conspiracy theory. I'm just a conspiracy theorist. I'm just wondering if people call that a conspiracy, cancel culture, or is it a thing?
Well, people really do get canceled. People do get fired from their jobs and hurt through altercations and the like. And my opinion on this is there is no court on public opinion. Now, I was on this person's page, Sunny for Congress. I think she's already, she didn't come in very high, but I keep on her page. She ran for Congress in Dallas. And I basically said, if one accepts cancel culture, one could take a few more steps and accept mass murder, which, of course, if you're afraid to say anything about the murder or whatever that's going on, well, they can do it and no one will say anything. They'll say it's not murder. We're not rioting, we're peaceful protesters. And that's what they're framing things now. And this person says, how is it a cult? Explain using the bite, a similar model, because Trump actually more closely fits the bite model. And I looked up the bite model, by the way. It's if you look up if you Google bite in religious cults, it has a thing on religious cults. And I just asked her, I said, you cannot see for yourself that BLM has the tenets of a cult? You come across, by the way, like a vindictive inquisitor. And she says, I'm just, a scientist. So I need evidence. Before I believe anything, how is it a cult when most people don't know each other? Again, do you have any evidence, or are you going to continue to use your butt to think for you? And I said, BLM has the establishment on its side, so any study on BLM being a cult will be met with fierce resistance. Many of the people I have come across are straight up fanatics. Some even take it to a very creepy level. And she said, again, but you do not have any evidence. Can you tell me any way they are cult-like other than being a bunch of people with maybe similar goals? As I said, Trump supporters are closely fits the bite model, which people define cult behavior. Google bite model. Tell me if BLM is a cult, because I am almost certain I can hive you point by point evidence of how MAGA people are more of a cult. I don't do generalizations. I'm a scientist. I will look at the bite model for Trump if you do it for BLM. No doubt some Trump supporters are cult-like, and this is me, Brian. This was, I forget her name, I don't want to, but this is, I'll just call her a BLM supporter and me, Brian. And I say to her, no doubt some Trump supporters are cult-like. I am not a Trump sycophant, but BLM, Antifa, and the far right and the left frighten me. I have seen BLM protests up close. BLM has original sin, chance, and threats of violence of those who dissent. It seems pretty cultish if you ask me. Okay, the conservatives have a chance too. What's your point? What about conservatives? What about conservatives were using Nazi chants, but that didn't bug you though? And she mentioned, I mean, it's throwing back to Charlottesville, where a group was yelling "blood and soil," which that I guess is their favorite thing to. That and Dylan Roof are their two favorite go-to points. And I asked the lady, let's see here, as a person who strives to be stoic, not a lot bothers me. It is a slander and a silly post. And then she says, is it though? Or did you just not like someone being held accountable because you too maybe one day held accountable for something you did or said? And I said to Mrs. Black Lives, if I am a criminal, then I should be judged by a jury of my peers, not a mob. The U.S. is based on liberty, not mobocracy. And this is where she really gets to the foolishness, in my opinion. You could disagree, Joe. She says, yes. And the black man should be able to sit in court and why am I laughing? And not be murdered before they can make it to jail. But I guess you aren't ready for that conversation.
Good grief.
and then I said, I'm ready for adult conversations, not one with hyperbolic statements.
Good.
And then she says, clearly not. I asked for several evidence and you gave me none.
You're a man, baby.
Several videos of black men being murdered by police, but chants are the only evidence you gave of BLM being a cult. Guess what? My nursing school does chants for things. We are not a cult. What is your next brilliant point that I will crush easily with logic?
Wow.
You can easily Google, and then she says you can easily Google. Let me see. This thing is so kind of jumbled here. Okay. Where are the facts that black men are being murdered by police at an extremely high rate? Also, is there any country that does policing right? I mean, is there any nation that America can learn from? And she says you can easily Google it. Google exact math to find on YouTube, breaking it down. But basically, black men are several times more likely to be shot, yada. She's giving me all this statistic stuff, which it's still like, I don't want to get into it, but a lot of this is absolute hyperbole. I don't believe it to be true. It for me is kind of a lie, and this woman is just basically like a silly drama queen. And I mean, it was so silly, some of these comments on these posts. I mean, the truth is they can accept us perhaps even to take a drug. It's bad for us. It's killing people. But if the news media is behind it, saying it's okay, and they force you to take it, they can do it, the genocide will not be televised, and the internet will censor it.
Do not get vaccinated. My advice.
Yeah, well, that'll get censored. I mean, like if we get too big and you say don't get vaccinated, guess what? We're being censored.
Yeah.
And they can choose to tell us what is true and what is lies. You know what? In my opinion, if you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you don't, don't.
If you get vaccinated, know what you're putting in your body. Demand transparency. That's all there is to it.
Demand, absolutely.
Demand to know what you're putting in your body and what are the long-term effects of those things.
And one of the things,
those are designed to stay in your body for a very long time. And what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'd like to have on transparency and merit is when they do, if they do come up with a vaccination, I think we will probably post everything that's in that drug, and we might start posting things on drugs. And also, I think we're going to do perhaps a cancel culture report. Who's been canceled? Why have they been canceled? And like I said, is there a court? Is there a cancel culture court? Is there any redemption? Because at this point, it seems very unforgiving, and people saying or doing things that maybe they're having a bad day, and we have to say, well, compared to what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have other people acted like this in the past? And have other people behaved the same way and they're not being canceled? Is it equal protection under the law? I mean, if you can economically blacklist somebody, I mean, usually when they deal with law and the punishment has to fit the crime. And we kind of want to see how. And is it only targeting one group? Which it looks like to me. It looks like it's primarily targeting white people. But I could be wrong on that. And what are you allowed to say? What are you allowed to do? And again, one of the things I want to have on my page is a place for the victims of cancel culture. Whether they have been unjustly canceled or harshly punished. I mean, we have to ask, does the punishment really fit the crime? Should someone lose their whole business? And, or their job or their livelihood for a word? Have people done worse? We have rapists, child molesters, people who've committed vicious assault. Are they being canceled too? Some people out there who've caused people, lifetime physical damage, who've assaulted people without cause, some of it racially motivated, and they're not canceled. But someone says a mean word or calls the police, they're canceled. Doesn't seem very fair. Joe, do you have anything to add out there?
No. But people can subscribe.
People can subscribe. And, I just want people out there to know, like, hey, I think that people should stand up to it. These people, just me reading what I've read, it's so absurd. These people are absurd. Some of them. A lot of these Black Lives Matter people are just emotional, hyperbolic. I don't want to say basket cases. I don't have a better word, but these are the thought process is completely unstable. They're not thinking correctly, and we're bending the knee to people that aren't really thinking correctly. And I'm hoping that the world isn't brainwashed. It could be. But that's not what I want, you know? I want people to be able to think clearly. And one thing we have to do also is control our anger, because it's when you're angry where they will get you, and also when you're also capable of doing evil. And a lot of Black Lives Matter and Antifa, a lot of them are kind of evil. They're just vindictive, mean, evil people, and they're in a bad spirit, you know. And you gotta kind of you can't be just as irrational as them, you know. I mean, Dylan Roof and and Colin Ferguson were all, you know, basically demonizing groups, and they all had that same evil motivation. Just you know, that gentleman in Discord, it's not even what he was preaching, it was how he was preaching it, and it was with malicious intent and evil intent, and that's not the way you should be. I mean, in my opinion. And again, we invite all kinds of opinions on transparency and merit, but, you know, listen to it for yourself. We're all adults here. We should be able to, in the internet, we should be able to listen to anything that comes down the pike and decide for ourselves what's got merit and what doesn't. We're not children. And if you have children, you should control what they watch and see. If you're worried about the kids. If I was a parent, I wouldn't let my kid listen to just anything. And I'd monitor him, you know. And even as an adult, if he's living under your roof and he's not stable, then you should also monitor him. But for the most part, we're all adults. We should all be able to handle information and people's opinion. And that's about all I have to say, Joe. Anything else before we call this one a day?
Let's wrap it. And that'll be it. Transparency and merit for Friday, July 17th, 2020.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
No.